Hey, you're listening to the Sales Center podcast. My name's Mark Hunter. What are we talking about here today? We're talking about women. Women, yeah. And when you understand women, okay, why am I talking? Let's get the show going and get the guest in right now.
You're listening to the Sales Hunter podcast with Mark Hunter, where the focus is to help you as a sales leader sell with confidence and integrity. And now here's your host.
We're not talking fluff today. We're talking the real world. And with me today, PhD Don Barden. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining us. Hey, go ahead and tell the audience right now your book title and what's the premise behind it. Because then I got some questions because I had a blast reading it. So we're going to dig in deep.
Well, thank you. First of all, before I even go down that road, thank you for having me. I love your show. I love the podcast. I love the art of sales and everything you continue to bring up because I tell people all the time when I'm speaking at events and talking to corporations, I always say, who's in sales? And, you know, some people raise their hands, some people don't. And the ones who aren't, I look at them and go, do you have a significant other? Do you have have you ever been in a relationship? Oh, yes. Okay. You're in sales. Do you have kids? Great. You're really in sales, you know, and you get it. And you're just like, God, sales is so much more than the transfer of value in a product. So when you do your work, and I love it, I just love it, Mark. I don't know if anybody ever says thank you, like I'm trying to say thank you, but thank you because it's so much deeper. What you're talking about is so much deeper than just selling product. It's a life. And I don't know if you get recognized for that like you probably should, but I just want you to know I appreciate you.
Hey, thank you so much. And it's one of the reasons why I love to say that sales is not a job, not a profession, but it's a lifestyle because it is. It's something you do all the time. So let's dig in because you did a whole study driven by a mutual friend of ours, John Maxwell, who said, you got to unpack this. So tell the audience about your book.
Yeah. So the book's called Here Come the Girls. It's on Amazon right now. It's been number one in economics for a while. I think it just fell off, which is fine, but we had about a good 3-month run there. It's still a top 5 new release, but it's a celebration. And I always tell people, everybody says, well, what does that title mean? I'm like, well, read the subtitle. The subtitle says a celebration of why women will take over global leadership in the year 2028. And the key word is celebration. It is something for us to embrace and to celebrate. But where it came from was just the power of observation, to be honest with you. I think great salespeople are great observers. They're constantly looking at things and understanding it. Again, not to come up with any trickery around sales, but to really feel an empathic in connection with your client or prospect so that you can put yourself in their shoes and you can add value to their life, maybe. And if not, you're kind enough to walk away. But if you can bring value to somebody's life and you can understand them better, then you're on your way to being a great salesperson. So for years, I've always sort of looked at things. And about 10 years ago, I noticed it. And I said, you know what? After 40 years of being in international sales and financial sales and owning my own shops, I was like, you know, I'm talking to more women than I've ever talked to before. And some of us, you and I, might be a little bit older than the rest of the people listening. And we can go back to an era where, you know, we've watched the world change, you know, in our career. We just have. I mean, good God, just look at how we're dressed right now. Would you ever do something like this 20 years ago and not be in a button-up coat and tie and ready to go? So things change, you know. But I started watching women and saying, wow, that's interesting. I'm seeing more and more women. And then I just nerded out. I put my doctorate hat back on and I said, okay, you know, what does the data tell us? And I started looking at some really obscure data that, you know, correlation and causation aren't always connected. But if you can correlate something and they're caused by each other, then now you're onto a phenomenon. And so I started looking at things like medical schools and dental schools. 25 years ago, 5% female. Now over 75% female. You start looking at all these other big industries. 6 of the top 8 Wall Street firms are now run by women. The other 2 that are not have a woman in the queue that's coming up. Mexico. I love Mexico. The most Catholic nation in the world. They make Italy, when it comes to, you know, they make the Vatican look like amateur hour. I mean, they're real in Mexico, right? They just elected their first female president, and she's Jewish. So you got to start at some point looking around going, something's happening here. So I started watching it. I started nerding out. I started playing with some numbers. And I talked to some people. John was one of them and a few of the others. And I said, you know, I really think a phenomenon is occurring here and it's worthy of exploration, especially when you talk about business and growth and what's really good for the world and good for us as individuals. What does this really mean? And when I was talking to the guys about it, I was on a whiteboard writing it out, and it was just dead silence in the room. And it was one of those things where I kind of looked over my shoulder like, oh man, I'm bombing here. But I wasn't bombing. They were just sitting there staring. And I think it was John said, hey, you need to really study this. And I said, well, I am. He goes, I hate to tell you, but you need to go back for academic accreditation. You need to make this a scientific study that nobody can come back and deny. Now they're going to do it. I do get hate mail, but they're going to come back. And when you look at the data and you sterilize it to the point that it's just research, it's just data, no dogma, just data. What does the data say? So we started about 4 years ago, and it was under the context of what is it that's about this phenomenon that we see women getting more and more powerful in the workforce. There's more and more female leaders out there. And then as a scientist, an economist, and I hate to say this, but sometimes no, I know salespeople hate this, but no is perfectly acceptable. No means that you get to move on, or no means that you don't get to do it anymore. And that's okay. You redivert your efforts. So you have to, in science, when you're looking at something, especially a doctoral research paper like this, that takes 4 years to complete, you have to be willing to accept that you might be wrong. And that's okay. So if you look at it and you say, well, this is right, or this is wrong, or this works, or this doesn't, then at least you know. And so what happened was we looked at it and we said, okay, there's some burning questions out there. This is phenomenological, which means it's a big, big movement that's happening, in this case, worldwide. So we created a process around surveys and questions and interviews. We interviewed thousands of female leaders around the world, and we just asked very straightforward questions. And I'll be honest with you, Mark, nobody held back. All these women were very straightforward. They shared the data. They cared about the growth. They cared about the phenomenon. They cared about what was happening. But more importantly, they cared about the consumer. They cared about the people that were buying their products. They cared about the people in the workforce, men and women. They cared about things way beyond what we're used to seeing. So we were able to do this study for 4.5 years and come back and say definitively, number one, women are going to take over all of global leadership in the year 2028. I might be a few months off, but that's when the tipping point is going to occur. And that's just math. So all it is math. That is going to happen. But then the next question is, wait a minute, and this is the hard part. So for all your listeners, please hear me out. The obvious question in science is to say, okay, here come the girls. So women are about to take over leadership. And I mean everything from the corner deli to parliament. It's going to be dominated by women. So the obvious question in science is, oh crap, are they any good at it? I mean, really, that's it. So then you go down that and you say, okay, what is it about these women? We need to know the lack of bias. Through lack of bias, we need to know the data, but we also need to know what is supporting the movement. And here's some interesting facts for you. If you put two like businesses side by side, one's run by a woman and one's run by a man in the same geographic area with the same populace, the same everything. It's called a control group. Or the opposite. You can't compare a deli in downtown Manhattan to a deli in Anchorage, Alaska. You're probably not going to get the same results, right? So let's compare two delis in New York. Let's compare two places in Alaska. Let's compare this where it's the same thing and it's a woman leading one and a man leading the other. Now, this is not anti-male. I am not male bashing here. I'm just saying that this evolution, that's honestly a revolution in the economy that's coming, is a bridge to the point where we need to sit back and say, okay, the math proves that women are about to take over, but are they any good at it? And if you look at that, this is the phenomenal part of it. A business run by a woman compared to a business run by a man, the woman outproduces the male business 3-1 in revenue and in profits. 3-1. Then you go deeper and you say, but what about the workforce? Boys and girls, men and women, the people that are working for her, what's it like? Well, here's some interesting data. In America, in the United States alone, the United States and Canada, most of Europe, but let's just talk about North America outside of Mexico right now. The average worker is 39 years old and changes jobs every 3 years. So kids coming out of college, or male and female, are being told to expect 10 3-year careers. All right, that's the way life is, right? Unless you're a woman. If you're a female-run business, you're outproducing a male-run business 3-1. And instead of your employees dropping off every 3 years, they're staying for an average of 6 years. But here's the big thing. There's going to be some people that argue, whoa, wait a minute. What about their productivity? Why do you want to keep somebody around too long? That's reasonable. Okay, that's a decent approach to something. With a female-run business, not only does the workforce engage twice as long as they do for a male-owned business, if you look at years 4, 5, and 6 of a female-run business, the employee's production goes up, sales go up, revenue goes up, and workforce satisfaction goes up. So we're looking at this data going, my God, it's undeniable. They're outproducing men 3-to-1 in revenue and profits. Their workforce is engaged twice as long and increasing production while they're doing it. And then you go to the most important thing. What does the consumer want? Well, a lot of consumers don't know the difference between a male and a female run business. But when we started talking to them, and just to use things, brands people understand, Red Bull or Monster, Coke or Pepsi, we start saying, which of these two do you want? Undeniably, they chose one that happened to be run by a woman. And when we asked that person, why did you choose that? They didn't say because it's a woman. They talked about the culture and the vibe and the connection they have with that value transfer of the product. And that's directly tied back to the woman. So this is a phenomenon that everybody needs to be aware of, that in the year 2028, the economy is going to shift in such a way that it's going to just catapult itself. It is literally going to escalate in areas we haven't seen since the .com, the industrial, the agricultural revolution. This is going to be a woman's revolution. And it's going to be the best thing ever for the economy.
Wow, you have said a lot there. Now, it's so fascinating because, we've come out of the Bronze Age, the Industrial Age. People are saying now that we're into the AI age. And what you're really saying is that we're into the women age.
Yep.
And I want to unpack this because you said women are 3x more productive, 3x more profitable, 3x better in almost everything. Plus, they retain their employees better. What's the secret sauce? And I'm a male, you're a male.
Yeah.
What can we learn from that? What can we apply from what women are doing?
Well, that's a great point. And thank you. Again, like I said, this is not male bashing. This is celebrating women. It's not leaving men on the table at all. But the big aha moment at the end of the study was, and this is just me talking like a 60-year-old dude, it's not a girl thing. It's just something girls do, which means men can do it as well. But the math is just supporting women taking over the tipping point. It's just that's going to happen. But that doesn't mean businesses run by men can adjust and adapt equally to what the women are doing, which means they will increase their production. They'll increase their longevity of their employee and their workforce. They'll get all the same results if they pay attention and they're willing to adjust, adapt, evolve, and revolutionize their way of thinking. Now, I'll tell you what it boils down to. It's one very, very simple thing. And it's the way a female handles her workforce's permission, ability, culture, whatever you call it, to handle critical issues. A female workforce handles critical issues radically different than a male workforce does. And if you got a second, I'll tell you. It's real.
Yes. Okay. Now this is fascinating because this is getting right to the meat. I'm gonna.
Oh yeah, it's right. And for your folks listening about sales, I don't want anybody to tune out. What this is telling us is how to sell into the future, what the buyers are going to want. She's doing it because her workforce is buying into her mission. The consumer is buying in to her vision and her culture. That means she's basically telling you how to sell to her, but it's all about integrity. If you've got the integrity and you go at it and you go, wow, it's not the Mad Men days. It's not the days of the suits and ties. It's not the days of the 3 lunch martini or 3 martini lunch, whatever it was. All those days are gone. This is about how do you deal with issues in a reflection of how she does. So here's an example. If a guy, in most cases is running an organization, let's say light manufacturing, and there's a problem. Somebody comes up to the guy who runs it and says, sir, we've got a problem. The guy listens to it and he'll say, okay, give it to me. I'll go fix it. That's it. Boom. Guys fix things. In fact, you know this. All guys know this. We are wired to fix things to the point that if it doesn't need fixing, we might just break it so we can fix it, right? That's what guys do. So women don't, though. Women do it differently. So whereas a guy says, okay, give it to me, I'll handle it. What he's really doing, what the man is doing with that patriarchal way we've all been trained to do it. Okay, I can fix it. Let me do it. I'm the boss. I'm in charge. I'll do it. What you're really doing is you're neutering your workforce. You're telling the person that brought you the problem that you're better than they are. You can take it. You can handle it. You go back to doing what you're doing. And oh, by the way, next time you got a problem, you're going to have to bring it to me too. I'm the only fixer in this room, right? That's the traditional male model. Now, for everybody's listening, yes, that's an exaggeration. Not everybody does that, but most people do. Most guys do. It's just the facts. Now, let's look at how a woman would handle that. What we learned with unbelievable saturation, which means almost 100% of the women that we interviewed, when we asked them about their process to handle these types of things, they might have used a few different words, but they said the exact same thing every time. So here's what women do, and this is what salespeople need to know. The first thing a woman does when she's brought a problem, and she's the leader, she's brought a problem by her community, her workforce, or whatever, the first thing she does is she shows sympathy to the problem, not the person. In other words, she separates the problem from the person, and she recognizes it. Yeah, that's a problem. I see it. I get it. That's a real problem. She doesn't attach the problem to the person. Second thing she does is she looks at that same person that brought the problem, and she shows empathy to that person. So she shows sympathy to the problem. Like, yeah, I'm going to recognize the problem. It's real. But then that she looks back at the person who's involved in the problem and says, hey, look, I get it. This wasn't your fault. I know this is your responsibility, but how are you? Are you okay? Look, let's just breathe. We can work on this together. We'll figure this thing out, but I want to make sure you're okay. So sympathy to the problem, which separates the problem from the person. Then she looks at the person and shows them empathy. And then the magic happens. Then the third step is where she says, hey, what would you do? What would you do if you had a magic wand, or if you were me, what would you do? That very question that women as leaders ask their employees or the consumers or whatever, that's the magic. And here's the data. 98% of the people in the workforce that bring a problem to their boss or the leader know how to fix it. So what she does is she says, okay, tell me what you would do. And then they say, well, I would get on the phone. I would call these people. I would do this. I would do this. I can do this. I can call shipping. I can do whatever. You know, that person knows how to solve the problem. But then once the female leader hears it, she looks at him and says, do it. So she empowers that person to go back and solve that problem. She gives them permission. She empowers them to do it. So think about this. This is the formula here. She shows sympathy to the problem by separating the problem from the person. She shows empathy to the person and says, hey, I'm on your side. It's okay. Let's breathe. And then by saying, how would you do it? She's empowering that person to do it. So what she's saying is, I see you and I see the problem. I hear you. I'm empathetic to you. I hear you. But most important, I understand you because you're my person. You're the person that can do this. Go do it. So here's what happens in a workforce or a consumer base. When they feel seen, heard, and understood, they feel valued. And whenever you've got a valued workforce, they will move mountains for you. And so if you go back and say, well, wait a minute, okay, so did they solve it? Yeah, 98% of the time, that person solved it. And they left that meeting with this empowerment of, I can do this. But a couple of sidebars happen here. Number one, next time there's a problem, guess what? They may or may not bring it to the leadership. They can just solve it because they live in a culture where they can solve it. Now, they might have weekly meetings and they say, oh, yeah, last week, boy, let me tell you, we're on the verge of a strike with our dock workers, but we got that fixed. And they just go down it. And the leadership's looking at it going, awesome, thank you. What happens when a workforce is empowered to do it because they feel seen, heard, and understood, and they're valued? First of all, they're freeing up leadership to not get in the weeds. And the leadership can go out there and be innovative and meet new customers because leaders should be the best salespeople in the room, right? They're out there meeting new customers and they're talking to things. They're being innovative. They're thinking things. They're not bogged down in the weeds. That and that alone is why she's out producing the guy 3-1. And that same thing goes back to the workforce, whereas we're seeing millions, if not billions of dollars being spent right now in employee retention and retraining of people. She doesn't have that problem. She's keeping them twice as long and they're increasing their productivity because they feel seen, heard, understood. They feel valued. They feel empowered. Why would you go somewhere else? Now, what's interesting is when they do leave, and this is another phenomenon we didn't even know existed till we saw this, and then you can't unsee it. When you got an employee, instead of swapping out every 3 years because they're bored or they feel like, oh, I'm not growing here anymore, but when they're with her, and they say to themselves, oh my God, I feel so good and empowered here. In 6 years or 7 years, when they do come and think, it's time for me to leave, it's time for me to go on, they actually go back to her and thank her. And they say to her, hey, I just want to thank you. I'm leaving. I got this dream opportunity for my career that's going to advance me. It's going to be such a big impact on me and my family. I just want to stop for a second and say thank you, because I couldn't have done it without you and without being here. And you know what that person does? They also tell everybody about it. And so when you get that type of culture and that type of workforce that feels seen, heard, understood, and valued, which means they're empowered, you can't stop it. So, and then at the same time, leadership gets to keep being innovative and selling. And then the workers are doing their jobs out there. And then the consumer comes around and goes, I don't know what the vibe is over there, but I want that. I want to be a part of that culture, that phenomenon. That's what's happening. So it's just 3 simple steps. Sympathy to the problem, empathy to the person, meet them where they are and ask them how they would solve it, then do it. That means the person feels seen, heard, and understood. If they're seen, heard, and understood, they feel valued. If they're valued, they're empowered, and they will move mountains. So that's what she's doing. And again, it's not a girl thing. It's just something girls do. But they're doing it at the exact same time. The weighting of the population curve is switching. 2028, we know, we've got all the data. It goes back to the late 1950s. We could have seen it coming. We just nobody paid attention to it. Now we know that they're about to take over. And it's going to be the greatest thing that's ever happened to our economy. Because if you think about this, Mark, and this is very, very real, and I'll nerd out. I'll put my professor hat on. A lot of people think, well, okay, good for her. She's going to go 3 times. Great. Not really. Here's what the deal is. You can't add percentages, which means if her business is growing 3 times, another woman's business is growing 3 times, another woman's business is growing 3 times, they're all growing 3x. The other phenomenon within this is that women overall in leadership aren't necessarily hot and bothered by mergers and acquisitions. What they want is collaboration. So when you get a bunch of 3x businesses collaborating, you can't add that percentage together. You multiply it. So what we're doing is we're about to see this economic shift that's not isolated to just women-owned businesses. It's going to be such an impact that you're going to see this collaboration start to occur. It's not going to be 3x isolated. It's going to be 3x across the economy. But again, you have to multiply, not add. Mark, I swear to God, it's going to be 3x cubed.
Wow, Don, we got to hold it right there.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is absolutely amazing. And here's a couple takeaways that I've got for this. It's seen, heard, and understood. And that's something we can all do in sales. Hey, are we allowing the customer to be seen, heard, and understood? But what you talked about, and it's so hard right now in this AI world, because AI world is taking all the supposed emotions out of it, the relationship. No. What you're saying is this is putting it back into it. So this is an intersection of AI and women that we absolutely need in the marketplace more than ever. And I think, like you said, customers are going to say, hey, wait a minute, I want to do business with companies like this. I want to do business with people who are like that. Because again, if they help me to be seen, heard, and understood, I'm naturally going to gravitate towards doing more business with you.
Exactly.
You have given us a masterclass on this. We do need to wrap it up. The title of your book again?
It's called Here Come the Girls. And you're right. Let me say one thing, because somebody's going to say something. I guarantee you'll get something. What you said about this is collision between women in the workforce and their leadership style with AI. I tell people this all the time. And I'm a huge fan of AI. I think it's going to be the greatest thing since spell check. Okay. I'm not diminishing AI, but spell check changed my world. Okay. As a dyslexic ADHD guy, an academia guy, I love spell check. AI is just something that's beyond what we can comprehend. But the key is in the A. A stands for artificial. We're not artificial beings. We're very, very real. So what she is doing is bringing the reality of that emotional connection back by saying, I see you, I hear you, and understand you. And she's using AI as a tool. So it might not be 3x cubed. It might be 3x to the 10th. I don't know, but it's going to be amazing. But the book, Here Come the Girls, talks about that. And I'm just so grateful that you're sharing the word with everybody. But this is how sales is going to go into the future. I guarantee.
Hey, I love it. I had a great time reading the book. I tell you what, there's so much in there. And I don't care which side of the fence you are, male or female, it applies to all of us because it is truly the workplace. With that, we need to say Thank you so much for listening to the Sales Hunter podcast. What is it? It's 2 episodes a week. One like this, where we do a deep dive with a subject matter expert. Second episode, short, single topic from me. What is it about? It's about helping you see and achieve what you didn't think was possible. The Sales Hunter podcast. Leave us a review on your favorite podcast app, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much, Don.